Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a teddy bear. So here's the pattern for the teddy bear. I've got every single piece that you're going to need. I've tried to make it as easy as possible to follow. The main things that you need to take note of are where to leave the holes, what direction the fur needs to be placed in. You need to make these holes before you start stitching it together. I've put little notes where to sew things. It should be fairly easy. The hardest part is really the face. And a lot of that comes down to where you're putting the threads in the nose and the ears to give him his personality. But this pattern is available for free on my website, www.thesailinggoldsmiths.com. Just download it and cut them all out and off you go. The first thing that you need to consider is what you'd like your bear to look like. There are a lot of different choices of fur. I like all of them as long as they've got a nice, strong, hard back. Test this by flipping the fur to the back and just pressing, seeing if it stretches. If it doesn't stretch, that's good. You want it to be fairly hard. As you can see with this fur, when I press my fingers in, you can see the indentations they make. For me, this is a bit too stretchy and not a good choice of fur. Now to the joint section. These white joints are the easiest, they're just clip-ons, whereas the other two here that you see, the wooden ones, they're a little bit more difficult. I would pick the split pins over the nut and bolt ones. For first-time teddy bear makers, I recommend these kind of noses. To stitch your own, it's a little bit more difficult. These ones have an easy pop-on kind of backing, just to click, click, and they're on. And then over to the eyes, there's similar click style eyes, which are really good as well for beginners. I chose in this video to use glass ones, but you can definitely just buy these ones. Hopefully close to you there's a craft store with all these supplies, or alternatively you could probably find a lot of these things on eBay or Amazon as well. When you've chosen your fur, the most important thing to do is to figure out which way the fur goes. So brush it with your hand, it'll stick up one way and it will go down the other way. Make sure that all the arrows are facing down in the smooth direction of the fur. These are my favourite little snips for this kind of thing. Basically, when you're cutting the fur, you really need to focus on only cutting the backing. If you're snipping the fur as well, it's going to have short patches and bold patches in your finished product. After you've cut everything out, just double check that you've got everything correctly and you've got all the pieces that you need. For the pads, you can use any kind of felt or suede. When I'm making these teddy bears, I only use one kind of stitch. It's called the blanket stitch. So first of all, I make a knot. I usually tie this knot 3 times. Just to make it extra strong. And then snip off the end, work out where it is I'm going, push the fur away, insert the needle and pull it until it's got a loop, and then put the needle through the loop and pull tight. And I just do this over and over again. This is the only stitch I do. What I've done here is I've stitched a few of the easy parts before I show you how I stitch it, just so that you can get an overall understanding of what we're doing. So just to show you the arm first of all, I sewed in the pad on one side first of all to this part, and then I sewed the whole thing together to the other side, leaving this hole here because that's where I'm going to turn it inside out. I've done the same with the foot, so we've got the foot pad here and the two pieces together and the hole on the side. You don't need to make that hole very big because you're going to have to sew it up from the outside. Done the same thing with the body, so it's all stitched up all the way around except for just that little hole, which might be a tight squeeze, but I should get it inside out. So we've got the body, the arm, a leg. I did the ears too because they're easy. I was a little bit naughty when I laid them out on my fur. I accidentally did them the wrong way, so I had to redraw them and then cut them out the right way. But just to show you what I'm doing, so when I pop that out, see how it's kind of caught there? There'll be some loose fur that you can just pick. And this is a very, very furry bear, but that gives you an idea of what the ear is going to look like. So I've got both the ears, and then I'll show you step by step with the leg, step by step with the arm. I still need to cut out the paw pad. And then with the head, we've got the two head pieces. So the first thing we need to do is sew them, that part just from there to there on both sides, and then the nose like that. So what I do is I sew those bits together, and then half of this together. So just like that. And then once that's sewed, I put that one in there like that. And then I take the head gusset, this long piece here, and I sew it directly like that. And that makes the whole center of the head. And then I'll show you later on when we're ready how to sew those pieces to the actual main head pieces. So I've got my needle with my nice big hole and my very strong thread, and I'll start to stitch. So I'll start with the feet tonight. One of the most important things to do is to start with, say we'll start with the end, and I'll knot my thread there. And then with each stitch, what I do is I just take the needle and I just push it in like this. And what that does is it pushes all the fur inside and out of the way of my thread. And that makes it fluffier and not as caught on the outside. So let's start stitching. I've threaded my needle on with some nice strong thread. I've made it probably a little bit longer than I need to. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push that fur out of the way. I'm going to bring it in about that far away from the edge because you don't want to go too close to the edge so it pulls out. I'm going to pull that through to the end. I'm going to hold it and then I'm going to make a knot. It's caught a little bit, so you just undo it. That's the benefit of having shorter
thread, so I made this one a bit long. Let's pull it out. Okay, so making the knot. There we go. Once we've got that, I usually tie it about 3 times. There we go, that's the start of our thread. And so as I push the fur back, all I do is insert it about there, push the needle through and pull the thread through till there's a small loop there, and then I put that needle through the loop and pull it tight. And I just do that stitch all the way, and I'll go all the way to this part here, and then I'll knot it 3 times to end it, and then I'll start it again here, and then go all the way around to there, and then I'll show you when I'm doing the foot pad. I have stitched all around the outside of the leg, and now I'm going to take the foot pad and I'm going to keep this thread that I've finished up using here, and I'm going to start that at the top. I think it's always important to start the foot pad at the top and then sew around and then run out of thread probably about here, and then get a new piece of thread and start from the top again. It just it makes a neater job, and you're going to have to push all this fur again inside like that, but then you'll end up with something a bit like this. And here we go, the second foot. Time to finish the arm now. I need to cut out just the next paw pad and then stitch it on here first before I stitch around. So now I've got 2 legs, 2 arms, a body and 2 ears, and all I have to do now is the head. I'm going to start by stitching these little bits here, just from there to there, there to there, there to there, there to there, and there to there, and then I'll put them all together. With the head, I've stitched these little bits here. On the nose, I've stitched that side, and there. I've attached it to the head gusset, and I'm just about to sew this part on. I just wanted to show you before I did that, and then I'll be sewing that 3 middle sections to the side head. Okay, so we've got the mouth part, the nose, sewed onto the head gusset. And then I'm going to take these parts of the head and I'm going to pop that part that looks like a nose into that corner there, and then stitch the rest up and then stitch down. And as you stitch, it should all come together. So I'll do that on both sides, and then we should be ready for the big reveal. Alright, so the head is all stitched up. The mouth comes down into a point down to there. I've cut off the excess head gusset. He's got a cute little snubby nose. So we've got his head, his ears, body, arms and legs. This is the absolute best part of making a teddy bear. The big reveal. Popping the hair out. Ear. Very fluffy ears. All the head. Oh yeah, he needs a bit of a trim on his nose.
If you're using the click-clack eyes and nose, this is the time to do it before you sew the joint into the bottom of the neck. I find it easier to position the eyes when it's got the stuffing in. You can kind of work out where you want your hole to be, press the eyes in, and then unstuff him and click the backings on from behind. The same goes for the nose. Because I'm sewing my eyes and my nose on, I've decided to fully finish him with the joints. I've followed the instructions and insert just one half of the joint into the neck so I can insert it into the top of the body. To close it up, I take a nice strong thread and I knot it on one of the open parts of the neck and then just keep crossing it across to the other side and the other side until it's closed. I pull it tight. It'll all come together down there and keep that joint securely inside the head.
What do you think of this guy? This is his face.
Better. Looks better.
You like that one better?
Yeah.
Alright. Watch out.
Where you position the teddy bear's ears is a huge part of his personality. Just have a play and then get a thread and stitch it on wherever you think they look good. The good thing about the ears is it's so easy to unstitch and restitch if you're not happy with how they end up looking.
So this morning what I've done is I have stitched up the bottom of the head and attached the joint and the bolt, left that hanging out so that we can attach it on the inside of the body. I've attached the ears, and it's very important when attaching ears because you can change the entire look of the bear just by placing them slightly different. It's really important to try and keep them even. So I always try and start at the one spot and, you know, just double check. It's easy to unsew and resew if you don't like the placement. And there's a lot of fur going on here, and I can't find my snips, which I need, but I was thinking I might try and trim his muzzle a bit And then I've got to look at the placement for the eyes. So I've bought these beautiful eyes off Fur Addiction on Instagram. They're handmade and hand painted. They're beautiful. And I was thinking of putting them about there, but I'm not liking the shape of the head. So one of the most important things when making teddy bears is just playing with the shape of the head, because if I was to put a thread in here and pull it down, see where my thumbs are pressing in, it changes the whole look and face of the bear. And so what I think I'm going to do is probably start down here. It can be quite difficult, but I'm going to try and put a needle all the way from down there up into the eye socket, across the bridge of the nose and back down, and then if I pull, it should tighten that all up and make the face look more like what I want it to look like. Okay, so this part is tricky. I've got to figure out how and where I want this part to be pulled. The eyes, I think I want there, and I want them to pull to about there. So if I insert the needle evenly, because wherever you're pulling parts, it's going to look funny if you don't do it even. And then here I'm really shooting for in there. So even though the needle's short, I'm just going to push it in. Keep pushing till it comes out. It's come out at the wrong spot, but I'm going to give it a try. Oh, it's dabbing me. Oh. Just got to keep pushing, keep trying to pull. A longer needle might be better. Now this is what I'm talking about. Check out that for a needle. This will be much easier. All right, so I'm going to poke it in here and then aim upwards for where I want the eye to be. Feel for it coming out. It's coming out there, which I think is good. And I'm going to cross the bridge, stick it in where I want the other eye, turn the bear back over, and then I'm going to aim for coming out the same spot I went in. Pretty good. And I don't have to commit at this stage. I can check it out and see if I'm happy with it, which I think I am. When I pull that, it pulls his eye in. And I can even use this bolt to kind of wrap it around, tighten it up a bit. I'm just going to tie a knot around the bolt, and I'm going to pull. No, I don't think that's working. Okay, let's just try pulling and tying. The good thing about this is you can always do more. Check what his face looks like. That's made him look a lot better, I reckon. I don't know swatch trimming I'll do on the nose on this one, because every bear is super unique. So I don't know if I like his nose. I'm just gonna maybe make the whole thing and then see if I want to trim him a little bit. But I like how fluffy he is. So I'll leave the eyes for now because it's something I can do in a minute. I'm going to go to the body and I'm going to poke the holes in, which I should have already done prior to sewing. I'll poke the holes where the joints go in the body and the arms and the legs. So when you're doing this, make sure you do it when you first cut out the pattern. Just poke that hole where that dot is straight away, and it'll make it much easier for you. Now that I haven't done it, I need to make sure that this is the right leg, so it's this side that I poked the hole. That's about big enough, you don't need a big hole. And so I need to get my bolt with my washer, my joint, poke it through, and then flip it inside out. Might be difficult if you haven't left a very big hole, which I didn't. I'm sure it'll get in there though. Okay, so try this a different way. Turn it inside out first. Locate the hole on the inside. Poke it through and then force that disc in. There we go. So it's on the right side. This one's all ready. I've just poked a hole in here, in the top there, and I've got my head. I'm going to put it in and see what he looks like. Bella, thank you.
Oopsie. I wanted the blue bear eyes.
Okay, so kids are crazy, but I'm going to stuff this bear right now anyway because I'm excited. So Alex, you want to help? We have some tools. We've got a drill, a spanner, another spanner, and this thing. If you are smarter than me and buy the plastic clip-on ones, you won't need to do any of this. You'll just go click, click, and it will be done. Alternatively, there's the ones with the split pins, and you bend the split pins. They're also easier than this. So I've chosen the hardest way. So watch me struggle with trying to do this. Okay, first of all, you've got to... That one's got a screwdriver attachment, and we put the screw in there. And then on the inside... On the inside, we've got a bolt. So this is definitely a two-person job.
Turn it.
Okay, you know it's tight enough when you can barely turn it.
There.
Alright, now the difficult part, the head. Because we can't hold the inside of the head, we're going to have to just use what we can. We can hardly get in there. You can see that that's all we need to do.
Oh, but I don't have the screw, the bit. Oh yeah, okay.
So Captain Alex is going to hold that while I just slowly screw. And hopefully we'll get to the point where there's enough.
It's turning. Okay. Until there's enough meat on the outside to hold it on the outside. Wait. Yeah. No. I'll go and get another one.
So putting on these awful joints is the worst part of making this teddy bear, but we're nearly up to the best part, which is stuffing him and trimming his nose and putting his eyes on. And that's when he really starts to come to life. And for the inside of the stuffing, we've got this really old daggy cushion that nobody uses anymore. So I've just opened it up and I'm taking the stuffing out of that. What very special tool did you get from the garage? Ooh, looks like fun.
Yes.
Oh, I see. You're just going to grip that so that it can't. Yes, darling?
And there. Now you can do it.
In a sec, darling. I'm just putting the teddy bear's head on. That works well. So that's a lock grip, is it? Has it got a name?
Don't know in English. Clear molette in French.
That's so cute. I'm going to call it a lock grip.
With a vice, maybe a vice grip?
Oh, yeah.
A vice pliers? A locking pliers? I don't know. There. Nice.
That is a good tool. I think that might be tight enough.
Tighter.
You can stuff your bear as softly or as hard as you like. I tend to prefer my bears a little bit hard.
There we go. I'm super happy with how he's turned out with the stuffing inside. He's super furry though, so I'm going to need to trim up his face and figure out where to put the eyes. But overall, I'm really excited with him. He's very cute.
In this part of the video, you can see me with my snips just trimming the hair. So basically, don't go too close to the snout because you can't put hair back on. So just use it like a haircut and just keep going until you're happy, but be careful and go slowly.
What I'm trying to do here is just anchor his nose and eye sockets down a little bit. So I've taken a really big needle here and I've put it up through underneath his snout into his eye socket, and then I'm going to cross the bridge, go back down the eye socket, join it back up with this one, and then pull it tight. And hopefully what that's going to do is just tighten up his snout a bit. So there's so many different ways you can kind of change his expression just by thread and pulling on things and the placement of the eyes. It's all very personal, so just play around until you're happy. So I did that with the thread, but then I also decided to go from here in the eye socket through to the back of the head and then come back and pull it and tie it into a knot. And what that's done is it's given me like two little deeper parts to put the eyeballs. So quite happy with that shape now. And I realised that having children, someone has come along and snipped his ear. So I am going to sew that back on. What I've done with his head is I've got the thread coming from the back through to his eye socket. I'm now going to insert the needle into the loop on the back of the eye and pull it through. And because that is still a loop. I've got some pliers here and I'm just going to squeeze that so it's more like a needle. And so when I pull that through, that should come through into the fur. So I'm going to go back through that socket and I'm going to pull it back to the same position at the back. And then pull the needle tight, and that should pull the eye tight at the front. And the ear's a little bit loose, I'm going to have to restitch that. But apart from those little hanging threads that I'm going to chop off, I think it's quite good. So all I'll do is just tie that at the back and then snip that off. I'll snip these off, I'll tie that ear back on and then stitch up the back. I'm just about to hand stitch here in the legs, the back and the arms, and then it'll be the final reveal.
You can use a sharp tool or a needle to release any trapped fur under any stitches. And there you have it, your finished bear. You might want to add a little black smile, but that's quite easy to do. And thanks for watching. I hope you really enjoy making your bear. Happy crafting, everyone!